everybody, this is Jason from Pumpkin Spice Ministries, and today I'm reaching...
What's going on, everybody? My name is Brainsmasher. You know the deal. This is the final episode in my Doomtober series, and I think this is kind of what I wanted. The yellow trees, see, the maple trees are the final boom of color in the autumn months, and this is really what I think of throughout the year. This is what I yearn for when I just can't wait for October. This is exactly what I think of when I think of Doomtober and the music that sounds like the places that I love. So I've been picking some picks out for you along the way that sound like what this looks like to me in my head. As weird of a metaphorical parallel as you can make that be. I'm sure a lot of you get it. I appreciate the feedback that I've gotten on this series so far. It's been super fun. And like I said, sometimes I just throw together a playlist just like off the top of my head here and there, but this has been more of a listening to a ton of different albums and kind of seeing if it fits just right, pulling out some classics that like I already knew were unequivocally linked to that Doomtober feeling up in my noggin. So a couple of these are that. A couple of these are things that I kind of remembered and like kind of wiggled into this whole Doomtober series for you. So without further ado, I've got 4 picks, and I've decided, I think sometime along the way, what I will do... How about this? I'm holding myself to this. On my Instagram, you should follow it, Carrier of Wounds. I will feature my runner-ups to the Doomtober series. There's a lot of stuff I feel like a lot of people are like, what? You didn't put so-and-so in there. And there's definitely some stuff where I was just like, you know, I can't just leave this without, you know, being in a runner-up kind of sort of way. So check that out. I'll do a couple of posts about that. Not on my daily, I'll do it on my stories. But anyways, these 4 albums I have been listening to over and over and over in the last week or so, and I feel really good about what I've got picked out for you. First, this kind of was the whole impetus to the whole thing. Cannot talk about doom metal in the autumn months without pulling out Solitude Aeturnus, Through the Darkest Hour. Man, I tell you. So, what a brilliant band. They went from kind of being an 80s thrashy, speed metal-y kind of, almost like Robert Lowe is really in a league all his own as a vocalist, and he really sets the identity for the band by sounding like he does. He's got such a strong, powerful set of pipes to him, and just the emotive way that he can sing a song, just there is no compare for Robert Lowe. I feel like you could say he kind of maybe came from sort of a glam metal school of the 80s, but I don't think he sounds like any of that, and he certainly doesn't like do any of those frilly kind of styles of singing like a glam metal singer would, but he can just fucking hit those high notes like no fucking other, and in a way that you don't hear anybody else singing like in doom metal. Now, some of you may be saying, well, what about Messiah Marcolin from Candlemass? Well, as some of you may know, I can't really hang with King Diamond's vocals, and in the same way, Messiah Marcolin is kind of too much of a fucking cartoon version of himself that it just really ruins the music for me. For decades, I've meant to go back and kind of revisit some of the Nightfall and all that stuff, but for me, I don't listen to Candlemass very often. The album King of the Grey Islands that Robert Lowe sang on was pretty good. It just didn't really click with me like a Solitude Aeturnus album did. And so their first 2 albums were not doomy like this one is. And this isn't doomy like a lot of the other albums on my playlist. It's more of a traditional heavy metal, but slow and dreadful and emotive, just like this time of year is for me in this style of music. Just the tone overall, the riffing that sounds, sometimes he kind of has these like leads that are almost like Middle Eastern. I'm not sure, it's kind of on the tip of my tongue, but I'm not even able to think of what I want to say about it. But man, Through the Darkest Hour, it's all about just leading up to that Haunty the Obscura song. The first two songs, the way that they just lead into one another and build up. It's just such a fucking dreadful masterpiece to listen to. Man, it's just, sometimes albums are so tremendous and so life affirming that it feels insane that you can spend less than $20 on a copy of it. And I think that's why us as collectors just rabidly buy them up, because that feeling of just, you know, it's nothing to spend 20 bucks on an album these days. So if it could be an album that could do something for you like Through the Darkest Hour could, that would, you know, that becomes an impetus to a total addiction to collecting music. Man, what a fucking masterpiece. Just the haunting guitar riffs. The production on this thing too is just fucking absolutely perfect. The tone overall, mixing, mastering, the whole 9 yards. Love it. This is just a fucking perfect record through and through. And when I think of Doomtober albums, that is one of them. Another one that I just had to throw on here. Also another one that was like an impetus to the whole thing. And I hope this isn't a surprise to many of you, but Dance of December Souls by Catatonia. Fuck yeah. Fuck yes. So I feel like a lot of people maybe kind of misunderstand Catatonia, or they have an idea of the band by way of some of their other albums. And I feel like some people prefer Brave Murder Day to this one for whatever reason. And man, I can't really get into Brave Murder Day nearly as much as Dance of December Souls. This thing is a fucking timepiece, masterpiece. If you haven't revisited it or listened to it at all, especially in the context of a doomy, captivating, emotive masterpiece from Sweden, check it out. I don't know what you're doing not enjoying this all the time. It does kind of work also as a winter album, honestly, but dude, it's really no surprise that like Blackheim's, in some ways I feel like Blackheim kind of continued with Catatonia because it was working for him and it put food on the table, but I feel like what Blackheim's true spirit of music is what he was doing with Diabolical Masquerade. So like if you're into some Catatonia and not familiar with Diabolical Masquerade, definitely get into some of that stuff. It's just like super hyper melodic, fruity as all hell kind of stuff. But this one really, I think, is when all these guys were super youngsters, and like I always struggle when I listen to this album to figure out what was their big influence. And you know, you can take an album and you can kind of dissect it and say like, okay, they were obviously listening to Celtic Frost or Candlemass or King Diamond or something like that, but I really can't put my finger on what they may have been trying to sound like, if anything, or if they just had an idea that really was born of that moment when they were writing these songs. But I also feel like recording this album with Dan Sueno in Unisound Studios just was the perfect alchemy to an album that's as powerful as Dance of December Souls. What a fucking killer record, man. Yeah, wow. It just, like the Solitude Aeturnus, the way it kind of builds up to Without God in the middle, and that fucking fist pumping chorus of "Your fucking God is dead and shall forever be." And then they bring it back again at the end. Oh, it's just fucking crushing. This album is frosty, reverb-drenched, delay-ridden guitars just echoing hollowly throughout the trees. What a fucking masterpiece. I love that record. And it's like, I've tried several times to get into Brave Murder Day. The song Day is kind of a weird anomaly. I think that's really cool, kind of a Cure-esque kind of track. I just farted. And that's an awesome song, but as an album, I really think I get too bored with the drumming to be able to listen to it whatsoever. It's like that drummer from Extreme. That guy, talk about the worst. Anyways, let's talk about another album that, dude, have you heard The Monad of Creation by Mournful Congregation? Are you serious? Are you fucking serious? So I had a hard time making sure that Monad of Creation was the one that I wanted to pick, because Mournful Congregation have a discography that is fucking impressive. Especially when you're playing a sort of music that is kind of long, drawn out, and at some points without definition. But what they're doing and what they're bringing to this style, like I said a couple of videos ago, they're really taking, I think, a template from what Worship did back in 98, 99 or so, and giving that a lot more life by breathing this just mournful, just dreadful, emotive sorrow to the guitars, but in this just slowly captivating kind of pace to it. It's so just personal and dreadful. They do this thing, I'm not sure how they do it, but it's almost like maybe a guitar pedal or something that they run their vocals through sometimes, and it gives it like this like stuttery echo kind of gurgle to it, and it just has this way of just nearly making you fucking burst into tears. There's acoustic interludes all over the place with this album. This thing is just so vibrantly emotive and passionate. What else can you say? It's a brilliant fucking album. Closely second to this one, I would say June Frost is also just a goddamn amazing record. Book of Kings, nothing wrong with that one. There are just a couple of passages on Monad of Creation where I just want to fucking curl up into a ball and just weep my fucking brains out in utter ecstasy. There's just nothing to it. I think there's something to be said for people like maybe you, maybe me, who I guess deal with their emotions internally. And I think metal does a lot for us to just kind of have a side-by-side representation of what's going on in our head. But sometimes just the utter weight of the shit that we're dealing through, especially now, motherfuckers, is just impossible to fucking deal with. And sometimes when you're confronted with that identity in a song, and the hyperbole that can bring to your moment can just be utterly fucking crushing. And an album like Monad of Creation can pretty much do that to you. So the last three I've kind of brought in a kind of a wild card, kind of a you weren't expecting this kind of thing, or maybe you didn't know about this record. So I feel pretty confident in my choice of this, but I feel like it's going to be a nice surprise to some of you who may be checking out all the stuff that I'm putting in these lists, because it's fucking awesome. The band is called Desire, and the album is called Infinity, a timeless journey through an emotional dream. I know, I get it. That's like, that's enough fucking words to make you fucking throw up before you even step toward this thing. But let me tell you, it's worth it. Dig into this thing, because it's fucking awesome. So it was originally released in '96 on some super obscure label, and it's a rarity now. But it was reissued. Let's see here. I really should have looked. I'm just gonna fly off the handle and say 2015. Now this isn't the original cover art, although this is very suitable. I believe this is pretty damn close, only it had this logo on it. This is pretty much the original artwork to it. These guys are from Portugal, but I don't know, they did share members with Moonspell, if that does anything for you. It doesn't do anything for me, but it's slow, dreadful, emotive, and just fucking heart-wrenching. It's so slow and low and fucking heavy. Oh man. But it's not boring in a lot of those ways. It's not like a vastly vacuous, empty, funereal Doom kind of thing. There's lots of keyboards. This thing's got fucking big Korg energy all over the place. And so it has this kind of cheesy, melodic, or sort of choral quality to it. But the songwriting is superb. There's lots and lots and lots of memorable melodic passages throughout it. And the vocals just, like, it seriously sounds like you're burping a sewer. It's so fucking good. Like, I can see why people were paying upwards of $150 for copies of this fucking thing before they reissued it. You may recognize this from my intro. I pull it out. I've had a couple of people ask me, what is that album, for some reason. I don't know why this seems to catch the eye or something. It does have nice artwork on it, I will say. Pretty cool to look at. But check out this Desire Infinity, man. Like, heads who know fucking know. Yeah. So that's my 4 picks. I hope you liked the whole Doomtober series. There's a couple of high school girls over there shooting senior pictures. I was hoping they didn't fucking ruin it for me, and so far they haven't. So thanks for joining me. If you haven't subscribed yet, it's just a little button down there, and you're welcome to do it. Whatever. So let's get back into maybe some winter albums. Let me know what you think would fit into this Doomtober playlist, and we'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.